the stand. Now he runs. He produces a magic print. He pulls out another one. This is incredible. This is ridiculous. This is 15 out of 10 on the incredible meter. What a player. What an entertainer. Give him the medal. Give him the Dally M medal.
Hello, footy fans, and welcome back to the Chip and Chase podcast. We're here for our Saturday games preview for round 7 of the NRL Telstra Premiership season. If you didn't catch the Thursday, Friday game previews, you wouldn't know, but we're recording all these in one hit nowadays. Just the Thursday, Friday games, and then we're going to wrap that up. Straight away record the Saturday games, wrap that up, and straight away record the Sunday games. It's just making it a bit more easier time management wise for myself, given, my day's a little bit more time. I'm still doing uni full time. I'm still working. I still have to manage any sort of a social life and relationships, whatnot. So it's just making things a bit easier for me. So, of course, this one right now, this Saturday games preview, it's being recorded on the Thursday. So if there are any late changes or whatnot, they won't obviously get covered in this episode, but you guys can make your own, predictions and tips and bets based on that regardless. I'm just here to get a bit of content out there and share my thoughts regardless. We're also going to try and make these a little bit quicker nowadays, if you didn't catch that one as well. Trying to spend about, 5 to 7 minutes maybe max on each game, trying to get everything under that 20-minute mark for these podcasts now, instead of around that 25, 30-minute mark, which is where we've been sitting. But so we'll get straight into this one for the first Saturday game, the 3 p.m. game between the Penrith Panthers and the Wests Tigers. Carrington Park, Bathurst, this one. So Panthers home game technically, but sort of a bit more of a neutral ground here. Panthers also currently sitting in 6th on the ladder. The West Tigers down in 12th, which, they're playing a lot better than their current ladder position suggests, and now they get a few ins back in their side, which we'll start getting into right now. For the Penrith Panthers, not really much news here. The big one is that Scott Sorensen is returning at second row, which pushes Luke Garner back to the interchange. Still no Nathan Cleary. He was predicted for this one. He's still maybe a week or two away. It's sort of prolonging. We don't really know. Hamstrings are a really tough injury to sort of get a realistic mark on when their return date is. So we're not really sure on Nathan Cleary. The other news, not so much team news, but James Fisher-Harris, if you guys didn't catch it, I'm sure you would have. James Fisher-Harris is signed with the New Zealand Warriors on a 4-year deal starting next season. He's named in this one. Of course, he's still sort of working into the season back from injury, so it'll be interesting to see how his minutes and everything goes. But it's James Fisher-Harris. We know he's going to come out and play like he's got nothing to lose, and he's going to want to repay the faith that his team has kept in him. But that's the only changes for Liam Henry also returning from concussion is the other change. My apologies. Only changes for the Panthers there. For the Tigers, of course, the big one is Lachlan Galvin returning from suspension. He goes straight at the 5/8, and Jaden Sullivan drops out of the squad. The other one is that Brent Naden has been named at centre for Solomone Fatape. Now, I don't really have any news on that one. I haven't heard much on whether it's a dropping or Fatape's injured or whatnot. But he is straight out of the side, and Naden replaces him there. In terms of their forward pack, few ins from injury and suspension. John Bateman returns from concussion, and Latu Fainu and Samuelo Fainu also return, and it also pushes Alex Seyfarth back to the bench. So Asu Kapoa and Justin Matamua and Jake Simpkin are the men to make way. Now, in terms of the tipping for this one, I think it's safe to presume the Penrith Panthers win it. In saying that, I'm not quite sure if it's going to be a runaway that people think. I know the odds are stacked severely against the Tigers. I think the Tigers have been playing some pretty darn good footy, really gritty and just inspired stuff, and they seem to believe in their coach, Benji Marshall, and the game plan and the future that he's showing them. So I love that for the Tigers. It's just still a Panthers side without Nathan Cleary. They're coming off the bye, but before that they did cop a loss to the Seagulls. Are they going to be out to redeem that, or are they just going to be coasting, thinking they can get away with this one? Who really knows? The Tigers also do have the mocker over the Panthers, notably winning over them the past couple seasons, no matter where they are placed on the ladder. So it could be quite a close one, and the fact that it's also in Bathurst suggests, it's not just going to be all of these Panthers home fans trying to cheer on their boys. Who really knows how this one's going to go? I still think the Panthers win. I still think they could potentially win well, but I do actually see it being a lot closer than what a lot of people are suggesting. I don't think the Tigers can get the win, though. I'd love to see them do it, but I don't see that happening, unfortunately. In terms of the matchup I like most for this game, now let's have a look at these sides and see what's really out there. You can go to the 5'8", so I think that's a very interesting one. Of course, Jerome Luai, sort of the main man in their halves at the moment in Nathan Cleary's absence, and Lachlan Galvin, the young rookie, he has been leading this Tigers team around since he debuted in round 2, technically. They had the bye in round 1. So you'd love to see them. Also, Galvin coming back from suspension, he's going to want to repay his teammates for letting them down and getting himself suspended. So I do like that as a matchup. It's definitely up there for my favourite. I like the forward pack duel here, especially in the front row department. James Fisher-Harris and Moses Leota, the two guns of the NRL, up against the young buck Stefano and the aggressor, the old bull, David Clemmer. I really like the front row duel here. I like the hooker duel as well. Now, it was a few weeks ago I mentioned Mitch Kenny as one of the form hookers in the competition, and he's up against Apasai Coruscant, who arguably is the form hooker in the competition, maybe behind someone like Wade Egan. And also, Appy is the Panthers' former hooker, so it's master against apprentice here. I really like the hooker duel. I think I'm going to lean towards that. But there are just really great duels across the park. Even, John Bateman, Liam Martin, the enforcers, the aggressors. I like that sort of stuff. So I really like this game. I'm quite excited for it. I think a lot of people, as I said, are expecting this one to just be a whitewash. I don't see it going that way. Really excited for it. But the matchup I'm going to lean most towards is the hooker duel, despite the fact there are some fantastic matchups across the park. So we'll get straight into our bet for this one, our best bet. We'll start with the Tigers, who I've given them the line, which is 13.5 points. So basically what that means for anybody who's unfamiliar with how lines work in betting, it essentially means the Tigers have a 13.5 point head start. So they can lose this game by 13 points and it will still count that leg as a win. But if they lost it by 14, it's that leg's a loss. So, yeah, it's essentially just giving them a 13.5 point head start. So that's the first leg of the multi. Tigers with the line. Brian To'o I have as an anytime try scorer, and I also have Taylor May as an anytime try scorer. Now, if you're familiar with how betting works, when you bet on a team and then you bet on try scorers against on the other team, it makes the odds quite high. So I technically haven't bet on a team, but because I've gone Tigers to cover the line and then I've gone To'o and May as try scorers, it has upped the odds decently well there. So it's $16 odds for this one. So if you're putting $1 on that and all three legs get up, you win $16 back to the dollar. Once again, all of my betting is done through Sportsbet. I'm not affiliated with Sportsbet in any way. They are just the agency that I choose to bet through. If you're looking to get onto any of these bets and follow them with me, do it through the Sportsbet app, because a lot of these markets may not be available with other agencies, and even if they are, the odds may be completely different. So if you're going to have a bet, do it through Sportsbet. Once again, though, please gamble responsibly. Do not bet what you can't afford. And if gambling is no longer fun for you, then please do seek help. So that will wrap us up for the first game of our Super Saturday. The Panthers and the Tigers have the Panthers running away with victors in that one. The second game, the Titans, the Gold Coast Titans take on the Manly Warringah Seagulls. Titans in 16th, second last at the moment. Seagulls in 8th, in that top 8 position. This one is at Seabus Super Stadium in the Gold Coast. So it's a Titans home game. And it is, of course, Des Hasler going up against his former club. So really exciting to see this one. I think, again, a lot of people have Manly just running away with it in this one. It could happen. I'm not quite sure. I think the Titans showed a lot of grit last week. And I think if they're going to come good this season, it could be this week. Home crowd, Des against his former club. The Titans have to stand up eventually. This could be it. It just reeks of an upset to me, but I don't have the balls to tip it. So I have tipped the Seagulls. But let's go through the team lists ins and outs before we get into how we see it playing out. The Titans, Jaden Campbell is out with a knee injury. I think it's a potential PCL injury. He is replaced by Philip Sammy, who returns from his own injury. He goes straight to fullback, Philip Sammy, which means they have left AJ Brimson in the halves with Kieran Foran. I really like this for the Titans, to be honest. I wouldn't have, hated if they moved Brimo back to fullback and just brought Tanner Boyd back in. That would have been fine, in my opinion. But I think leaving Brimson in the halves and Philip Sammy just getting through his incredible work rate at fullback, I really like that. I hope they can get something off the back of that. But yeah, really like that for the Titans. The only change for them that is for the Seagulls, they are blessed with a few players returning from injury. One of those being Jason Saab, who returns on the wing for... who did he return on the wing for? My apologies. Jackson Paulo, there we go. He also returning is Ruben Garrick in the centres, who replaces Ben Trebojevic, who's out with I think it's a hamstring injury. Regardless, he's out with an injury. Matthew Lodge comes in back from a ACL that he suffered last year. Starting front row for the suspended Josh Aloiai for his hit on Sean Johnson in the act of kicking. So Matthew Lodge, number 10. And the other one is that Nathan Brown returns from his 1 week little injury on the bench. So really good ins for the Seagulls. I'm excited to see all these players get back in action. As I said, I have tipped them. I don't have the balls to tip against them. I think on their day, we know that they're like the best attacking side in the comp. Titans haven't thrown out much this season, as much as last week's performance was improved. So it could be a train wreck here for them. But there's something there. I am smelling an upset. I just don't have the balls to do it. If you do, jump on it. I'm all for it. The odds are really good in the betting markets as well. But before we get to our betting markets, we'll go into the matchup of this game. Now, quite a hard one to really look at. I'm tempted to go with AJ Brimson and Luke Brooks. We know Brimo, if the Titans are to win, he has to have his hand on the ball as much as possible. Luke Brooks, I've been very impressed with him this season. I'm a big Luke Brooks fan. I think last week wasn't his best performance. He obviously came up with that intercept thrown to Dallin Watene-Zelezniak that essentially catapulted the Warriors' comeback, which was no good. I think he's going to be looking to redeem himself. And I really like that as a matchup. So I'm going to settle on the 5/8 as my matchup of the game this week, or for this game, I should say. In the betting department, I've gone the Seagulls with the line. So I know I've just said that the Titans could upset them. I do smell that, but I don't see it happening. It's maybe a 70-40 split. 70-40, that's not even a split. Jesus. 70-30 split of that happening in the favour of the Seagulls, not them. So I do see the Seagulls winning this one. I see them covering the line, which is a minus 9.5. Now, we just mentioned the line. Basically, what it means in the minus is they start 9.5 points behind the Titans, essentially. So they have to win this game by 10 points or more for that leg to pay out. So that's the first leg. I then have Tolutau Kula as an anytime try scorer, and I have the match going over 47.5 total match points. This is my lowest multi of the entire week. There was nothing I was really confident in. I didn't know who to pick or what to do. All the market, I'm sitting here going, I'm tipping the Seagulls, and I think they can get away with it. Yeah, everybody thinks that, which is why the markets are so low for them, which means the odds of this are $5.95. So you're putting $1 on this and all three legs get up, you win $5.95 back to the dollar. Very small odds, definitely not my favorite bet of the week, but it's just something that I saw happening. I'm not going to bet on something I don't see coming off. So once again, we'll read through them. That is Manly Seagulls to cover the line, Tolutau Kula anytime try scorer, and over 47.5 total match points for $5.95 on the multi. I've boosted it, so it makes mine a little better. So mine's up to... I can't see, don't worry. Regardless, that is my bet. So we'll move out of that game, and we'll move into the late Saturday game, which, of course, is the Brisbane Broncos taking on the Canberra Raiders. Broncos currently sitting in 10th. They're a 3-3 record. A few injuries here and there. They've been struggling. They've had a very tough start to the season, but we know the class of the Broncos. They go up against the Raiders, who are in third. They're flying high this season, but of course, this one is a Brisbane home game, so Raiders have to travel to Queensland for this one. Quite a hard ask. But before we get into the tips, we will look at the ins and outs. Now, in terms of the ins and outs for the Broncos, there is not a single one. They are the exact same team that got the job done last week. Did they get the job done last week? Who'd they verse last week? They got the job done. I'm sure they did. Meanwhile, for the Raiders, the only in and out for them is that Zach Hosking is out with the shoulder injury. He could be out for the season, or at least 10 to 12 weeks they're looking at right now. Ata Mariota is the man to replace him at second row, and it means Simi Sasangi comes onto their bench. Now, we just spoke a little bit about my tips. I have tipped the Brisbane Broncos for this one. I think they're just too good of a side to not tip them. You have to back them in, really. In saying that, I've really been impressed with the with the Raiders' performances this season from round one to now. I'm really impressed with how they're playing. I just don't see them being able to get it done against the Broncos in Brisbane. So unfortunate for them. I'd love for them to come out and win this one. I know I talk about a tough competition, and I want teams to be quite similar on the ladder, and I want the Raiders to win, even though they're ahead of the Broncos. But we know that the Broncos are going to not so much come good. They've already come good. They're a good footy side. We know when they get their troops back, they're going to go on a run. So I'd like sides who I think are lesser than them to get the chockies over them when they can. And in this case, I think that's the Raiders. That's no disrespect to the Raiders. I think they're a fantastic footy side. But that is how I see this one tipping. I think Broncos just get it done. I think their forward pack doesn't match up the best against the incredible forward pack of the Raiders. Obviously, still without Payne Haas hurts them massively, but I think when they bring in someone like Xavier Willison off the bench, he's going to bring that impact. I am worried that they are still running with Tristan Saylor and Tyson Smoothy on the bench. I think running with two small, utility hooker players isn't the way forward against this massive Canberra pack. I wouldn't be surprised if Martin Tapau or Benjamin Takura come onto the bench for Tristan Saylor, and then they can run with a much bigger forward pack against the Canberra Raiders. I think that would be the way to go, and it'd be something I'm really excited to see. But we'll have to wait and see to see if that one is in fact the case. Beyond that, we'll get into our matchups. Now, matchup I'd love to say is Ethan Strange and Ezra Mann, but I'm pretty sure every Raiders game I say Ethan Strange is my matchup because I'm loving what he's doing so far. So let's go with Matt Timoko. He's the right-hand center, so he'll be up against technically Selwyn Cobbo, which, that's a good matchup in itself, but I was hoping, I want to sort of highlight Katoni Staggs and Matt Timoko. I know they're not going to be, lining up directly against each other, but honestly, I'm still going to use them as my matchup because they're similar in the way that they play really hard, just 115% every time that they run and tackle. Really hard, nuggety players to stop. So Matt Timoko, Katoni Staggs, that is my matchup to watch. I do really like Reece Walsh and Chevy Stewart as well. And as I said, Ezra Mann, Ethan Strange. But we're going to lock in with Katoni Staggs and Matt Timoko. So that leads us into our bets for this game, which, of course, we start with the Brisbane Broncos, just the head-to-head winners. Didn't want to go too expansive. Didn't want to go 13+, 1-12, whatnot. Just got Broncos winning this one head-to-head. Don't mind how they do it, but I've just got that as my first leg of the multi. I then do have Chevy Stewart as an anytime try scorer. Tipped him last week to cross in his debut. Wasn't the case. I'd love to see it happen again in this one. So pretty good odds on Chevy Stewart as an anytime. So I was happy to throw that one in. And then I have the match going over 44.5 total match points for the odds of $16.25. So if you're slapping $1 on that, you're getting $16.25 back to the dollar. Once again, that is Brisbane Broncos head-to-head, Chevy Stewart anytime try scorer, and under 44.5 total match points. That one wraps us up for our Saturday previews. As I said, we'll be back for the Sunday previews, getting recorded straight after this one and then uploaded the day after. So tune in for those ones if you're keen on them. Once again, if there are any outs, late news, tough luck. It's something I can't deal with, but I'm sure you guys can make your own decisions. When you're doing tips anyway, you do your tips at the start of the week, and then if stuff happens throughout the week, you just have to live with that. So that's what we're going to be sort of talking about, what we're going to be doing with these podcasts from now on. So thank you guys for tuning into this one, and I'll see you guys next time.